I want to welcome, as I said, Admiral Charles Ray, I guess I should, okay, from the Coast Guard has joined us. So Vice Admiral Charlie Ray, he assumed his duties last year in 2016 as the Coast Guard Deputy Commandant for Operations. So that's a really big job. No, let me just say one thing about that. I was lucky enough to join the Admiral a few months ago in the beautiful headquarters they have, their new headquarters, that is very environmentally friendly, and it really showcases all of what you do, and thank you for that. And I'm just going to turn it over to you, because I know you have,
I don't have a lot of notes here, but what I've found is if I don't put something in front of me and flip it, I don't get to the end, and that tells me when to shut up. So it's a pretty good technique. I want to thank Sally for having me here. Thanks, Stimson Center, Mr. Ambassador. It's good to meet you, and thank you for being here. I'm Sharp, I'm White. Thanks to all of you. This is really neat. I remember sitting next to Admiral Sharp last year at the Our Oceans Conference, and we were talking about various, well, a lot of you guys were there, and we were talking about people creating these protected areas and people donating funds to get after illegal fishing and kind of the domain awareness and the situational awareness and requirements. And that's right down his alley. That's what he does for a living. And I remember him leaning over and saying, we could do this. We could get together. And so it is so cool to be here a year later and see NMIO so integrated with this effort, which is a long time effort, but for many of you, but it's cool. And so people think, well, what's this got to do with national security? And I know you talked about this, you had a panel on this, but really, we have a lot in common when it comes to security and what people that are preserving the resources. We have a lot in common because we all care about behavior that doesn't quite fit the pattern of what boats should be doing out there. We all care about the approaches to our nation for whatever reason. We care about them for different reasons. And we all want to have the same situational awareness of the waters surrounding. Those, a maritime nation that cannot control the approaches to its shores is not a very strong maritime nation. So we all have a lot in common. And if I boil it down to something that I don't know, it just dawned on me as I was walking up the steps. So I have grandkids, and I take them to the park. They're getting kind of big now, but I still take them. And I take them to the park, and I don't know any of these people around the park. They've got kids too, and they're playing on this and that. Now let some big, not very well kept person come in and sit down on the park bench and we're all lasered in on this person, all right? We don't know each other, but we know we're taking care of these grandkids or kids or whatever from this person. And that's the way we are with these fish. I mean, these are important to the livelihood of our nations and to our own just well-being of the oceans and everything. And so I've been in this business quite a while. My first patrol 36 years ago, almost 37 now, 37 years ago was a shrimp closure off of South Texas, in Brownsville, off the Brownsville area down there, right on the border with Mexico. The first patrol, Ensign Ray's down there on the Coast Guard cutter Cushion, and we're gonna stop them from stealing our shrimp. And we went about that. And the first boarding I got to go on, we go over there, and they were in deep water, and it didn't make sense. It wasn't really adding up, and we didn't have great intel there. It was just kind of go out and look around and see what you could see. And we go in there, and we get all the crew mustered on the stern of this shrimp boat, and we say, hey, Skipper, you need to open up your hold here. And it was full to the top with bales of marijuana. And so that changed the whole dynamic, as you might imagine, and it was pretty interesting. And then if you fast forward, I was up in Kodiak, Alaska, and we were out on patrol, in a high seas drift net patrol. So we were like 1,000 miles from California and 1,000 miles from Japan. We were out literally in the middle of the Pacific Ocean. And it's foggy. You guys, some of you sailed up there. And really foggy, you couldn't see very far, but we're out there looking, and we come up on this boat with one of those high seas drift nets strung out for 5 miles behind it. They catch everything. They're just killing machines. They're horrible. And we sneak up on them. And it was really cool because the sound of the engine was of their own boat and their equipment. They're in the middle of the Pacific Ocean. Who else could be out there? And we sneak up on them in the helicopter. And I got the NIPAS cop leaned out the door with his old big video camera he used to have to carry, you know, and he's taking pictures of the guy. And this Taiwanese guy looks up, he almost has a cow, and then he starts throwing salmon overboard like that was going to help, you know. It was just really cool. So that was a cool case. Anyway, and they threw most of the fish over him because it was a long time process, right? State Department to State Department, we couldn't figure out whether we could seize them. Things weren't as cool then as they are now, but anyway, it was pretty cool. And we took them to Midway Island, believe it or not. There was still a Navy base there at the time. That was my first Goonie bird. We could go on forever on this stuff. Anyway, but why I really care about this is because we in the Coast Guard, we understand how important fish are, both to not just to our nation, but to the nations of the world. I mean, we understand the value of fisheries for nations that don't have a lot else going for them. The values of food. We understand the protein that fisheries provide to the people of the world. And we understand if these are not taken care of, and 31%, I guess, are at the reaching the maximum capacity rate, if we don't take care of them, then we got more Somalias in our future. And we got more crime and lawlessness, and nobody wants it. And so we understand it, and that's why this has been and always will be an important mission of the Coast Guard. The other reason it's really important is because, and we've talked about this, the same bad guys that will steal fish are, generally speaking, they're not lone actors. They're part of networks. And we've diagnosed these networks. Captain Jay Caputo and I spent a lot of time in Hawaii working on tuna fisheries networks, a whole lot. And they're all connected. They're worldwide logistics organizations who prey on the desperation of small countries and poor people. And these same organizations, today they're running fish, are stealing fish, and tomorrow they're running drugs, and the next day they're human trafficking. We've seen, this is not hypothetical. I mean, I've seen it with my own eyes. And so it's really important to get after these folks, and that's what we do. And so it's important that you're here. And I know you know that. I'm preaching to the choir. But I'm really heartened by the progress. Like I said, getting Admiral Sharp and his crew joined up with you. A couple of years ago, if you said that was going to happen, I said you're crazy. But it did. And so I'm really happy about it because, as you know, there's no boundaries. And so we've got to have this type of cooperation. The fish don't know any boundaries. Bad guys don't know any boundaries, so we can't have boundaries. And that's what these organizations do for our collective enforcement efforts. I'm really excited, too, about the application of technology. We've seen some, I think you guys talked some about that. I'll just tell you a little hurricane story. We did this thing, we responded to Hurricane Harvey down in Texas. And Harvey is different than Irma, which is different than the real challenges we have in Puerto Rico right now with Maria. But Harvey was really cool for the Coast Guard. The first time I've seen us really employ social media to kind of get heat maps of where all the bad stuff is going on. And so it was just cool, and it kind of happened spontaneously. People started calling, if you got like 1 bar left and 1 bar left on your battery, you're going to shout out to Facebook where you're at and how high the water is. And people were doing that, and we were able to laser in efforts, and it was really cool. And we can do that same thing, and we are doing that same thing with technology for enforcement, as you guys all know. And it's really cool what that's going to open up some new boundaries for us. And then I'm really heartened once again, by the partnerships and various, whether it's Safe Oceans, whether it's these port state measures, all the things that we're doing together to close the boundaries. And likewise, what we're doing together to build capacity in smaller nations around the world. Because they need help, quite frankly. They don't have the resources, they need help, and if I help them to support and stand on their own 2 legs, it is really critical. So, in summary, I'm thankful for what you've done here. And as I told Admiral Sharp, I'm really excited because just being around this a little bit and getting the reports I got from yesterday, this is not a community of interest. This is a community of action. And so I thank you in advance for the action that will come from this conference and for what you're doing to protect our fisheries and take care of our planet. Thank you.
The challenge with Admiral Ray is he represses things. He holds it inside. I always tell him, you need to let it out, sir. But thank you for those words. And I think you echoed a lot of what we started off with and what we saw throughout this session. And, I like to be around people who are action-oriented, who are kindred spirits, And Admiral Ray surely personifies that in great terms. So I want to do three things here to close out. Three because all great things come in threes. A friend of mine taught me that. One, I can remember three. But you think about it, Holy Trinity, Earth, Wind, Fire, Three Stooges, you can go on and on. So I'm going to make an announcement. I'm going to thank some people, and I'll leave you with some final thoughts, if I could. First, I wanted to take this opportunity with this group here to make an announcement. We just completed a Maritime Data Challenge competition, and this is something we've been running for the last couple of years in support of safe oceans efforts, and we kind of ran this over the last 2 years in 2 phases, and this was designed as a worldwide crowdsourcing algorithm development effort to really develop some ways where we could use that sort of technology, existing data sources, to highlight evil fishing. And we ran it in 2 phases. The first phase was just designed to identify in certain areas where fishing was occurring. And then the second phase was to identify what type of fishing was occurring, just using existing open source, publicly available data sources. So I think if you go to the next slide, we have some information on the winners. Over 2 years, we attracted 119 total contestants into this competition from 33 different countries. And the winner of the first phase, we don't really even know his name, but he's from Poland, and he uses the name Psycho. There's not a C in there. It's not Psycho. And he won a $5,000 prize for his winning submission. And then the Phase 2 winner, we do know his name, Vladimir Leet. He's a computer forensics specialist from Brazil, and he won $10,000 for his winning entry. And in his spare time, he engages in mathematics competitions as a hobby. But you start to think about that network to defeat a network approach and going out and grabbing these sorts of great minds. And we're going to use these algorithms and turn them into tools that we can make available to the community writ large. And I wanted to take this opportunity with this sort of group to make this announcement. And you'll be seeing a press release coming out, and it's going to specifically cite that I made this announcement during this forum with this group where we're exploring this civil-military opportunities. Right. So if you know Psycho, send them a congratulatory note out there. Second, I want to real quick thank some individuals. So Ambassador Makaya, the fact that you spent your whole day here with us once again talks to the importance that you show and your nation shows to this problem and cooperating with the international community. And we certainly benefited not only from your great words this morning starting us off, but also from your participation here today and your leadership. And something I took us, from your notes this morning, which was, if we're successful, we're going to change the world. We're going to impact the future in positive ways. And I truly believe that the group here is committed to doing so, and have established important and hopefully lasting relationships. So, sir.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thanks for that clarification. That, once again, just highlights the network to defeat a network and the things you can do when you start to pull people together. And I met these 2 fantastic ladies yesterday. We were talking about this, and they said, we're from a conservation group, and yeah, we help put radars out on Cocos. I'm like, what? And they said, yeah, and we didn't have transportation out there, but we rented the only ferry that's out there, and we transported this out. But those are the type of efforts that make a difference, that show that we can make a difference. I want to thank Stimson for really putting this together. And NMIO, our charter is to pull together a global maritime community of action, is what we're going to call it now. But we could not have done this without Stimson. So, Brian, if you could come up also and receive one of our most coveted. Please.
If I may, yeah,
Yes.
Thank you so much, Admiral. I mean, we're so grateful for this partnership with you. And I think just the breadth of interest in this room, and as you said, the presence of the ambassador, the foreign minister yesterday indicates that our foreign partners are equally committed to this. If I may, I would just like to highlight a couple of folks on my team, because the best part of this job is that you get to stand up at the front and introduce everyone. You don't have to do any of the work, and then you get all the credit at the end of the day. But it really was, the hard work really was testament to our team, and we're very grateful first for the loan this year of Commander Ben Sipperly. He's been a great addition to our team. And a proud member of the United States Navy, as you know.
Forever.
We'll talk about that later. We'll talk about that later. In addition, of course, the two women standing at the back, Emma Myers and Amanda Shaver, three women who at the back who really made a rather cramped space, hopefully
in the room
as
now,
comfortable
so
as possible.
when we give them applause right now, they can hear it.
Exactly. And last, and perhaps most importantly, my colleague, Sally Gazelle, who really was the brainchild behind all of this. And I really do want to express my gratitude to her on all of our behalf as well for making this happen. Thank you so much, Sally.
I also want to thank our co-sponsors in addition to Stimson, National Geographic, Pristine Seas, and I know if you could please pass our congratulations and thanks to Enrique, and tell him that I had high expectations coming in here, but I think we exceeded those high expectations. And then also Ted Waite and the Ted Waite the Waite Foundation for what they do in support of these sorts of efforts, and for inspiring me that day at our Oceans Conference to say, hey, I need to go meet him, and I need to meet this group of individuals and thank them for what they do. And like I said, when I first met him, I said, I don't know what we'll do together, but it'll be great. And we will do something that's spectacular together, and I'm real pleased with where this is heading right now. I also want to thank some of the individuals that put this together. So in military, we have something called the challenge coin, right? And I have a few coins I want to hand out to individuals who did the lion's share of the work here putting this together, starting off with Miss Sally. Just truly, we first interacted when she was still with State Department. When I heard she was coming over here and we contacted and she was involved in this, I was really excited because, as you all witnessed, and as all of you pretty much know who know Sally, she is a force to be reckoned with. And she goes out, and I tell you, the talent that she brought together here, that she spot assessed and recruited, and she mentioned, she handpicked everybody that's in this room, and she picked them for their expertise, and she picked them for their passion. I have a leadership philosophy. I'll put it down to G-rated version here. I would rather pull reins on thoroughbreds than spur a bunch of donkeys. And I am so happy that you brought together this stable of thoroughbreds, Sally. So my thanks to you.
Thank you so much. Really appreciate it.
All right. And yep.
So reiterate once again, so if Emma, Claire, and Amanda could join us up front.
Okay, and the way these challenge coins work, you're supposed to have one with you at all times. And if we see each other at an adult beverage establishment, and I pull out a coin, if you have yours, I have to buy the round. If you don't, you should always have your coin. Thank you so much. Oh. Thank you. Thank you.
And I would also like to call up Commander Sipperly, please. last but not least, and I'm not sure if this will work, but Adel Shugazadeh, if you could join us as well. I know you have to leave the camera.
Look at that. He's trying to make us look good, which is a full-time job, so my thanks to you. I'm paying that forward, so make me a little taller, a little hair, muscles. Thank you very much. Yep. I say that to my photographers all the time, and they've actually created that picture, which my wife has said is frightening. And then if I could just have up in mass all of our panelists from yesterday, all of our moderators as well. If you can come join me up here. You know who you were. Don't be shy. Okay. Thank you very much. My age load is going to be lighter going home. Thank you very much. All right, and a round of applause for all those who helped us facilitate this session. I'm pretty passionate about the strength of who we are, certainly as a military, and then I think as a nation and as a community of nations, an international community coming together is based on our people and our partnerships. And I'm real passionate about diversity and inclusion as a leadership philosophy. And if you thought about the military aspect and the non-military aspect of that, that's exactly what we're going for, right? If we're going to be successful against these sort of broad-ranging security challenges that we face, we need diversity of experience, diversity of thought, looking at these challenges from different angles. And that's exactly what we were trying to do here with this group, was bring in that diversity of thought, diversity of resources, diversity of thinking about ways, to bring ideas to life. So I think we really achieved our goals. I gave you 3 tasks when we started, right? I said, meet somebody you didn't know. I think we were successful there. I said, participate. And I walked around from each of the groups, and I could feel the excitement and the enthusiasm, and everybody was participating. And then I said, it doesn't end here, right? Maintain those connections going forward. And I know some people were interested in whether or not we were going to put out a contact list, which we will. If for some reason you don't want your name on the contact list, or you have a fake name you want on the contact list, please see Sally. But we'll make that available in addition to all the cards that were exchanged here. And I have I grew up briefing naval aviators who sometimes attention spans are shorter and they like pictures and stuff. So I have a little video clip that my staff gets tired of me using, but I wanted to share this with you. My tasking to us, remember, is maintain the connections, and build upon what we had here today, and we will create the mechanisms to do so. And first we were stuck in a blender. Next thing, we're saving lives, and we're making an impact, a huge impact on the future. Right, so. My thanks to all of you for being here, for participating. My thanks for what you're going to do in the future. And if you're ever in Suitland, Maryland, you have an open invitation to come in the building. I'm trying to make us the most visited command in the National Capital Region and having some success. Much to the chagrin of my staff. But once again, thank you for what you've done here. Safe travels. Have a great weekend. Thanks.